So, hi everyone, I'm Jakub, and today I'm going to give a very brief overview of some projects that we've been developing at the Active Inference Institute and their relevance to decentralized AI. Now, I think my talk and Alex's right after me is going to overlap slightly. So uh, I'm going to try to keep the theory of active inference and one particular project to a minimum, although I'll try to give some brief introduction to what active inference is so that you uh, have the relevant background. So since this is a mini conference on decentralized AI, I'm going to assume that um, most of you have at least heard of reinforcement learning, which on the computational side is quite similar to active inference, but we can think of active inference as being a kind of generalization of reinforcement learning where agents interact with their environment and try to solve a certain task or try to navigate in their environment. But instead of um, maximizing some utility function or instead of their goal being always maximizing for reward, active inference agents are perhaps more general, where the kind of utility function or the general function of active inference agents is always uncertainty minimization. So active inference agents form some kind of internal model of their environment, and they can learn more about their environment by engaging with it through action and then observing what kind of sensory input goes from the environment to the agents. So there's a kind of duality between perception and action that's always mediated through uncertainty minimization. And uh, because of its generality, this framework can be applied to pretty much any system that's um, salient enough to persist through time, which was kind of the motivation for the first project, which Alex will talk about a bit more. So I'm only going to mention it briefly, which is the active entity ontology for science, which really stands at the intersection of three fields, namely DeSci, systems engineering, and active inference, where our aim was to create an ontology that individuals and communities within DeSci can use to collectively minimize their uncertainty about what kind of system they find themselves in and how that system might evolve through time. And I think this is the same can be done for decentralized AI, which has a lot of similar artifacts that have to do with Web3. And perhaps we can say that either DeSci is encapsulated within decentralized AI or the other way around, depending on which you think is the bigger set. But the core utility of having a shared ontology that's kind of grounded in another formal framework, namely active inference, allows us to more specifically define what kind of entities and artifacts we can find in a system and how these entities interact with each other and minimize their uncertainty, so we can kind of have a better understanding of the dynamics of our system and be able to better make decisions about what kind of protocols we should create or how should our community interact with other communities and so on. This also leads me to the active block friends project, which is kind of on the computational side of EOS, where we aim to combine the open source framework CAD, which was developed by Block Science, and that's been used mainly for token engineering and also just generalized dynamical systems modeling, where you usually take a kind of structural top-down approach to modeling your system of interest, where you define your state space and then you perform giant parameter sweeps to try to figure out how your state space evolves through time and what kind of edge cases can you get to, and combining that with active inference, cognitive modeling, where you have agents that have kind of emergent properties that through collective interaction form these communities that themselves um, can be cast as agents within some environment. So you have this um, bottom up emergent behavior through agents interacting and trying to minimize their uncertainty, as well as a kind of top down parameter sweep over all the possible states in your system. This might sound a little abstract, but I think it's quite relevant for decentralized AI, and mainly for two different reasons. One of them is we want to create different communities and protocols for both co-owning or creating AI models or interacting with AI models, and that's already a quite large state space. So it would definitely be different as a framework to talk more rigorously about AI alignment, which is also a very big question big problem in AI, where you're basically trying to align uncertainty minimization across different types of agents, as well as different levels of your system, where DAOs want to minimize their uncertainty with respect to other DAOs or with respect to some preset goal. But individuals within those DAOs also need to minimize their uncertainty based on their own preferences, which may or may not align with those of the higher level system. And the same can be said of AI models and autonomous agents, which are definitely becoming more present in the digital space. So that would be a very brief overview of some of the projects that we're developing at the Active Inference Institute.